Alright, folks, so by now you probably already know what's going on in Texas, and that is a huge winter storm, and basically it's left 4 million people without power or heat. So basically, people in their homes don't have any power, they don't have the ability to turn on the heater, and it's incredibly cold. And I think what's really underrated and we don't talk about enough is the sensation of what it's like to be in a very cold environment without actually being able to turn the heater on or be able to somehow get to heat. It's one of the worst sensations there is, and there is a problem with a lot of people in colder areas who are poor or homeless, and they do end up dying usually in these situations because if your environment is indeed too cold, you will die. That's what's going to happen. Your body cannot handle it. There are already people who have died. Snowstorms are basically covering roads, and it's completely destroyed the grid. So there's a bunch of stuff that's been going on with this. One of those things is, hilariously, the Republicans in Texas, they came out and blamed the Green New Deal, which has not been passed, and the state of Texas was trying to blame the Republicans in Texas. Were trying to blame green energy, renewable energies. They're so insane and so insulting to our intelligence. They think that the reason for Texas having this problem and their power failing is because of green energy. Since when is the Republican state of Texas a state that's known for having renewable energies? That's not even in place. Something like 7% of their energy sources come from solar and wind or renewable energies in general. So why on earth would that be the cause? It's absolutely insane. And so really, when we look at what the cause is, there's actually a couple of things going on here. So one of the things is, remember, and this is something that's really important to understand about climate change, is with global warming and climate change, really the key term to understand is extreme weather occurrences, because that's really what global warming does. So you're not just going to have extreme heat, which causes fires. You're obviously going to have droughts as a result of that, but you're also going to have increased hurricanes, frequency and strength. You're also going to have things like this that you're seeing with this winter storm. So it's not just things that are associated with extreme heat. There will be extreme weather occurrences due to all the carbon emissions from fossil fuels. So just think about how much money is lost in these situations. Droughts are devastating. Crops fail. People don't have food. People don't have jobs. Think about every single one of these things: hurricanes, droughts, fires, now winter storms. Think about how much money that costs the country. And then think about the cost of the Green New Deal. People talk about how do you pay for the Green New Deal. Not only is there huge offsetting of costs from situations like these, but there's literally no other option, because otherwise you're not going to have any climate left. There's not going to be anything left. And so remember, fossil fuels is what caused this winter storm in the first place. This winter storm doesn't happen without man-made climate change and the extreme usage of fossil fuels and fracking, etc. So that's what's causing this in the first place. But what's actually interesting is, really, when you get down to it, right, is it comes down to a failure of regulation, essentially. And so what Texas has done is they only implemented guidelines, because something similar to this happened back in 2011. And instead of having regulation and having federal oversight, they made it so that they didn't have any federal oversight, and all they gave was guidelines for their power and left it a lot up to private corporations. And so that's how you get to this point. There was no actual regulation to make sure that this would not happen. It says, basically what's going on is they can't even get any of energy out of the sources that they typically have, natural gas, etc. But there were ways to actually, quote-unquote, winterize all energy sources so that you would actually be able to get energy out of those. So they didn't even do that. Okay, so the vast majority is fossil fuels, fossil fuel energies, and there's tiny, like 7% that's renewable energies. So what they could have done is winterize those things, but they didn't even do that. And remember that fossil fuels are what caused this snowstorm in the first place. But what it says is nuclear units, gas units, wind turbines, even solar in different ways. The very cold weather and snow has impacted every type of generator. Energy and policy experts said Texas's decision not to require equipment upgrades to better withstand extreme winter temperatures and choice to operate mostly isolated from other grids in the U.S. left power system unprepared for the winter crisis. Policy observers blamed the power system failure on the legislators and state agencies who they say did not properly heed the warnings of previous storms or account for more extreme weather events warned by climate scientists. Instead, Texas prioritized the free market. Quote, clearly, we need to change our regulatory focus to protect the people, not profits. Instead of taking any regulatory action, we ended up getting guidelines that were unenforceable and largely ignored in power companies' rush for profits. So, and then it explains, it's possible to actually winterize these things. So, this is multiple things, right? Remember, climate change is caused by man-made activities, specifically 6 corporations, basically emitting like 90% of our carbon emissions. And those carbon emissions lead to rise in temperatures. But remember, most important thing is extreme weather occurrences. You're going to get these kinds of snowstorms. You're going to get increased hurricanes in frequency and strength. Same thing with fires. Same thing with droughts. Okay, and these things all cost a lot of money. They cost lives. People have already died as a result of this. And there are about 4 million people without power, without heat. Think about how horrible that is. That's unfathomable. It's actually really super depressing. But what's even crazier is Ted Cruz is now accused of flying over to Cancun as this whole power outage is going on. So what's really bizarre is here, the report of this came out basically from people who were, I guess, at the terminal or going on the flight taking pictures of Ted Cruz. And so what's going on is there's this accusation being made. There's a lot of evidence in favor of it. And he has refused to come out and deny it. So there's not like 100% confirmation, but I would call it like a 90%, maybe even higher confirmation. But what you can see basically is, it says, however, Cruz's office had not confirmed any travel plans to Cancun at the time of this writing. Newsweek could not independently verify the claim that he was at an airport or flying on Wednesday. And so people are basically posting pictures. You can see Ted Cruz here on the flight that appears to be his daughter, I think, and the pictures do appear to actually match up. They even have one where his wife is actually in the picture, and it does appear to be his wife. David Schuster has just confirmed Senator Ted Cruz and his family flew to Cancun tonight for a few days at a resort they visited before. Cruz seems to believe there isn't much for him to do in Texas for the millions of fellow Texans who remain without electricity/water and are literally freezing. So the thing about this is, there's a lot of evidence because there was actually a flight that was, going. It says the plane in question appears to have been the 4:45 p.m. CST United Airlines flight from George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston to Cancun. Other social media users suggested Cruz in the United Airlines terminal. So there does appear to be a flight that coincides with this. The photos do appear to be him, his daughters, and his wife. So, there are multiple photos. Everything does add up, and if something like this was circulating, Ted Cruz would immediately deny it. He would decry the media for fake news, the liberal media for fake news. So, I am very confident in this being legit. I would be genuinely shocked if it's not. There's so much evidence in favor of it, and to me, the lack of a denial from Ted Cruz in his office really says a lot. So the guy is scurrying away. He's running away, basically, is what's going on. This is really important to talk about for Democrats because this is a really good, it's very accurate, first of all, but also it's a really good campaign tool to defeat Ted Cruz. Now, Ted Cruz actually came really close to Beto O'Rourke last time he ran. He lost by 1 to 3 percentage points. I actually don't even remember right now. So he's very vulnerable. The idea, Texas is shifting right now, guys, because Californians are moving en masse to Texas. Now, we're in 2021 right now, so it's been like 3 years basically since his election. Remember, senators have 6-year terms, so that means he'll be up in 2024. So in a couple of years here, there's a really good chance we can get rid of Ted Cruz, which I think getting rid of Ted Cruz would want to be the greatest achievements of humanity. He's an idiot. He's a moron. He's really gone in deep. Part of the reason why he's probably going on this is probably because he's tired of all of the scrutiny that he's been facing as a result of all the stuff that he's done with Trump and the whole Capitol stuff, right? So it definitely makes sense. He is a complete coward as millions, literally millions, are sitting in their homes without heat, without power, freezing. Ted Cruz is flying over with his family to Cancun to go on a vacation, go to a resort. So, this is really horrible what's going on in Texas. It is not the result of green energies. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard on ever. Period. But yeah, Ted Cruz appears to be running away. Pretty crazy. So hopefully this is something that Democrats really pounce on and use, because it's really important to do. This, I cannot stress how important it is to hammer this home. I really can't. Because this is something in disasters like this, when you are able to really pinpoint something like this, it really does help the campaign. So, yeah, very important.